all those who helped to make this a reality. Thank you. My first slide here shows that I'm from Celcom. So in Celcom, we are very obsessive about creating awesome moments, as they call it. Creating awesome moments so that we open up your world. That's our commitment to the customers. And same thing today, what I'm trying to do here is to try to create some awesome moments for all of you today. So that it's worthwhile for you to come here and spend 2 hours with me. Now, I once met a very learned and man of wisdom who told me that when you are old, don't think about retiring. So don't retire. When you're old, you have to aspire to inspire. Because if you don't do that, you will aspire sooner than later. So here I'm trying to inspire people. And I think perhaps Tun Amos will listen to this man. As you can see in this first slide is my picture with Darth Vader. This is an example where I meet with Darth Vader, and it's an awesome moment for me, and it opens up a new world into the world of Star Wars. So are we ready to be inspired?
Yes.
Are we ready to be inspired?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about myself, where I grew up and so that, so bear with me. Now, I was born in 1956. That makes me, 62 years old now. When I was born, my father wanted to name me Saiful Bahari, after the famous Indonesian composer, songwriter Saiful Bahari. And some claim that Negaraku was composed by Saiful Bahari, but actually there's some argument that actually the song was copied from France. Anyway, my mother didn't agree with the name Bahari, so they compromised and they put my name as Saiful Ahmad. So my name is Saiful Ahmad Mohamad. Okay, as I was growing up, I was born in the era of what people call the baby boom. It's just after the war, and everybody starts making babies. Because there's no war, things were getting better. And when I go to school and I speak to my classmates, I tell them, I have 11 of us in the family. If today I tell you I have 11 in the family, everybody will go, wow, 11 in the family. You hardly hear it. But those days, in the 50s and 60s, when I say I have 11 in the family, I can make one football team. My friends say, no big deal. We have 14 in the family. I can have reserves, as well as one referee and lifespan. So, that's the difference, those days and now, right? And life was not as easy as it was today, but nevertheless, there's a lot of excitement, which I don't envy the youngsters today. You miss a lot of excitements if you don't live in the 50s and the 60s. Anyway, I did my primary school and secondary school in a small town called Sentul Pasar. Okay, I don't know why they call it Sentul Pasar. Anyway, I have my primary, secondary school there, and then I went into ITM. Of course, in my primary, secondary, it's all boys' school. So my first experience meeting with the ladies is when I go into ITM, right? And I was a very shy and timid person, very, very shy, especially with the ladies. So I never managed to have a girlfriend in college. I was just too scared to go to Then when I came out of college, my first job was in a factory. Okay? And in this factory, they have no less than 2,000 ladies with an average age of 19. What a lucky guy. Now, this is quite a busy slide here and colorful one. What I wanted to show you here is all the companies that I had the privilege to work for in the past almost 40 years. Right? So I started with a company called Texas Instruments, and I'm now with Celcom. But before I go further, I will try to explain all the excitement I got from each of these companies. Okay, let's start with Texas Instruments. It's my first love. 1979. First day at work, my supervisor called me and said, "Okay, you know that you are now a production supervisor." At that time, they call us production executive. Right? So I'm an executive staff, supposed to be executive staff, but I work on shift, taking care of those pretty ladies. On my first day, can you imagine a very timid and shy person? My supervisor called about 80 girls, put them in front of me, all of them standing. He says, "Saiful, these are your operators. Have meeting with them," and he walked away. Can you imagine how I felt at that time? This is what Malays call lembeh lutut. That was the first time I experienced lembeh lutut. Right? But that was in 1979. Today, if you put 70 girls in front of me, I ask for 100. That's different. Okay, moving on more seriously now. So what is it that I do in Texas Instruments? I started with production control. Right? Just to give you a bit of background, all my life I've been working in the high-tech industries. Okay, Texas Instruments is among the big giants at that time who were producing integrated circuits, none other for IBM. IBM was the only company at that time that was controlling almost the whole world when it comes to computer and computing, for that matter. Right? So we are one of the IBM's biggest producer or manufacturer of integrated circuits, or another word for it is semiconductor. Okay. Now, at that time, nobody understood what is the function of IC. In fact, to most people, when I say that, when they ask me what are you producing, I say IC. You mean identity card? It's integrated circuits. This is the basic of all the electronic products. Okay. If today you open up any electronic product, you will find inside a board, and on top of the board are all these what they call chips. These are integrated circuits. Of course, now it's more elaborate. They call it a lot of other names. Okay, but we are producing chips which are either you are logic chips or memory chips, okay, or microprocessors. Right. So Texas Instruments at that point, they didn't have license to make any microprocessors. When I say microprocessors, those microprocessors that you use in any big equipment like laptop. Every laptop has got one microprocessor that controls all the other chips, right? So they only make the supporting chips, okay? And along the way, few years along the way, 4 or 5 years after I joined the industry, there seemed to be an electronic boom, as they call it. People start to understand what is home computer, personal computer, right? And the Americans, being Americans, they love to monopolize. They love to monopolize, okay? Nobody else can produce home computers except IBM. Okay? So, Texas Instruments thought that they had all the technology, they should also produce their own computers. So they started with what they call TIPC, Texas Instruments Personal Computers. Right? And of course, IBM didn't like it. Okay, so IBM didn't like it. So they give some hint, because in the US they also have this law that you cannot monopolize. Right? So they give some hint, no, we don't like you. Anyway, Texas Instruments lost a bit of market at the time, lost to IBM, and that's about the time when IBM started to outsource. Okay, IBM outsourced a company called Intel to do all their microprocessors. Okay, so coming back to Malaysia, Malaysia at that time, whether we realize or not, we are the #1 producer of semiconductor in the whole world. In the whole world. Okay. At that time, Malaysian Airlines, we have like 70% of the space in Malaysian Airlines are all, allocated for semiconductor shipping. They're exporting to US and any other parts of the world, right? That's how big Malaysia was in semiconductor. So we have many companies in Malaysia that does semiconductor at the time. We have Texas Instruments, we have Motorola, if you remember, National Semiconductor, which is still around, a lot more. Okay, only American companies. Okay, so a few years down the road, the technology has picked up. So companies from Hong Kong wants to build computer, but they cannot buy the parts. They know how to do it because it's so easy. We can do it today in Malaysia. All you need to do is, take out your whole computer, take out the board, and go to one company and say, "Can you make this board for me?" Any company can make the board. Okay, so the time came when companies from Hong Kong wanted to make computers, but they are not allowed because there's a UNAM license. It's all patented. Everything is IBM. So somehow IBM thought that it would be a losing battle. So they finally say, okay, we will allow some companies to build PC, but you must be IBM compatible. Of course, they take some money out of it, right? So if people who live in the 80s and the 90s will remember, when you go to buy PC, they'll ask you whether it is IBM compatible or not. Okay. Now, there's another company, I'm sure everybody have heard about this story, called Apple. Apple also want to do personal computer. And they went into the market, and their partner to make microprocessors was Motorola. Okay, so Motorola was making the microprocessors for Apple. Intel was making the microprocessors for IBM, and IBM compatible. Of course, at that time, Apple didn't shine. Right? And I remember going into a Motorola factory, even in the 90s. In Motorola, nobody uses IBM compatible laptop. They all use Apple, all using Mac. Not anymore. They can't afford it now. If you go to a Motorola factory, they perhaps also will use Dell or HP. Eh? So that was the situation. What I'm trying to explain here is, from the perspective of security, what happens is, in the early 80s, people start to know about the semiconductor, and people wanted to steal this semiconductor so that they can produce their own PCs and sell it cheap. Okay, imagine in 1996, I bought one PC, IBM PC, and it cost me in ringgit about 10,000 ringgit. Can you imagine in 1996, one PC cost you 10,000 ringgit, right? So it is so expensive. So a lot of companies from Hong Kong or from Singapore, they thought that they can make it cheap, but they don't have the license. So what they do is they steal the microprocessors as well as some of the chips. Okay, I was right in the middle of it. I was a production manager at the time, 1983, 84, right? And here comes a guy who happened to know me, And he said, hey, I want to buy ICs from you. I said, well, we produce like hundreds of IC. Which one you want? He says, anything. And how much you want? You have one container, I'll buy one container. Okay? So that, without realizing, that started me putting one leg into the security industry. I went on to report to my management and say, hey, look, there are people out there who are trying to steal our product. And we already sense that in the factory we are losing product. We don't know where these things are going, but we are losing product. Because earlier we don't care. Who wants to steal IC? Nobody knows how to use it, right? But now we have a situation where people are stealing those products to build PCs to sell to the market. We call it the grey market. Okay? So after my report went straight to the corporate level, and someone from Singapore, who is the corporate security guy, came to meet me in Kuala Lumpur, and he said, do you want to be like a James Bond? I said, what do you mean, James Bond? Well, we're going to wire you up and we're going to make you sell those products to they call it the fence. So I was only like, 23, 24 years old, so excited to become a James Bond. Not bad. Why not? Okay, why not? So they took me, being an American company, they have all this stuff. Okay, mind you, they have all this stuff. So they wired me up, just like any agent, and I took a box of ICs and tried to sell it to this friends. This Chinese guy from Singapore. And when I did the sale, I, out of curiosity, asked a few questions, where have you been buying all this while? So this guy somehow trusted me. Maybe I look so innocent. He trusted me and he told me a whole story. He said, I've been buying from Mr. A, Mr. B from your factory. And now, we want to buy from you because they are charging us too much. Right? And you know how much he bought from me? Just 20 cents for one memory chip, 20 cents. Okay? Of course, I sold him like 10,000 units, so that's quite a lot of money. So, when I came out, those guys, of course, they got arrested. They got arrested, and the police collected the chips and interrogated them and find out what their network and all that. But it's only people say a drop in the ocean. It's just a small scam, right? A small group of people trying to steal this product and ship it out to Hong Kong. All they want to do is ship it out to Hong Kong. Okay? Now, amongst the people that was involved in the stealing of these chips, guess what? Was the security manager. So he left the job. One manufacturing manager left the job. Then this guy, the corporate security guy, came back to me and says, look, I think you did very well, like James Bond. Why don't you join me and become a security manager instead of, I was a production manager then, right? And I was thinking to myself, I'm not a technical guy. And, production management, I don't see any future in it, unless you're an engineer, right? So I said, why not? I'll give it a try. Okay? So I made up my mind that I wanted to go into security management. Right? And, when I first discussed this with my father was very upset. So I sent you to college and then you come out, you're going to become chief jaga. That was the mentality then, right? So I said, who cares, chief jaga or not, they're going to give you more money. Okay, anyway, I started my career as a security manager in a factory. Obviously, I do not have any experience whatsoever about security. Okay? But Texas Instruments, being an American company, they are well organized in terms of everything, including security. They have a cookbook, the security cookbook. Okay? They have everything inside there, what to do and what. So I was sitting down there for months, trying to understand what they're trying to do, and I was amazed There is so much to learn as a security person, right? But somehow, by the grace of Allah, I prosper and I shone. Okay, there were many cases after that which I investigated. This is using conventional method. Okay, meaning you go through audit trails and you question people, you interrogate people, interview people, and you solve cases. For some reason, I managed to solve many cases. And somehow in the industry, because it's quite a close-knitted industry, right? My name went out to the market. Okay, and here a company in Penang by the name of Advanced Micro Devices. I'll give you the background afterwards. They had just merged with another company, so they become really big. They have like 5,600 employees. I don't even want to mention how many ladies there. But they have almost 6,000 employees in Penang, and they were looking for a staff manager level for security. Okay, so I was headhunted for that, and they interviewed me. It was a big decision because I already had 4 kids at the time. Yeah, I had 4 kids at the time, and I had to move to Penang. It was a big decision. But they somehow convinced me that the salary was good, plus all the other perks. So I packed my bag and I moved to Penang. And I started working with a company called Advanced Micro Devices. Now earlier I told you that Intel was producing for IBM, right? But IBM, again, being an American company, they're always suspicious of people. So it came to their mind that, if I only depend on Intel to do my microprocessors, what happened if today Intel's factory got burned down? Or Intel decided, I want to go and sell the chips to Hong Kong companies. Because when they developed the companies, they use their own research and development. So IBM has fallen behind because the technology has now evolved through Intel. Okay, so they were afraid of Intel, so they tell Intel, look, I cannot depend on you alone. You must go and look for another subcontractor. And what did Intel do? They thought that AMD is not a very smart company. It's a very small company. They thought maybe if I use AMD, it'll be good. Because they cannot go to Texas, they're too big. Right? They might eat up Intel. So they go to Advanced Micro Devices, which is Sunnyvale based, which is they call it the Silicon Valley in California. So they went to AMD, they said, okay, we want to make you our second source. You become our partner, so you develop your own product, we give you the technology now, but you can develop the product, and we both supply for Intel. Of course, to AMD, they're a small company, this is a big opportunity for them. So AMD took the opportunity and they started making microprocessors for IBM. Right? If you remember, the first PC when we come out, it's called the 186. Again, slowly it went to 286, and then it went to 386. When it went to 386, AMD decided that they also want to be independent. Okay, so they produced their own chip, which is pin-to-pin compatible with Intel, and they said they want to sell their own products. Right? And of course, Intel was very upset. They start suing one another, just like Samsung and Apple today. They did the same drama at the time. So they start suing one another until the time 486. They were still arguing, and then they said, okay, forget about all this 86, and Intel started with Pentium. Okay, remember Pentium. So AMD said, okay, we also go out from the 486, they called something else. Right? And so AMD prospered. Okay, AMD prospered from not having any market share in microprocessors, right? In about 10 to 15 years, they already have like almost 10% of the market. Okay? Today you ask any youngsters who likes gaming, they will tell you AMD microchip microprocessor is much better than Intel or any other microprocessor. Right? So that's the value that AMD brings into the market. Right? Somehow their graphics are better. Okay? So I went to work for Advanced Micro Devices, and guess what? At that time it was crazy. Everybody wants to steal the microprocessor. Okay? And one of the reasons they hired me is, hey, one of your jobs is to stop all this stealing. Right? So a lot of pressure on the security manager. Right? So in Penang, I can't even remember exactly how many people, but in AMD alone, I can roughly say I have put at least about 10 people in lockup. Either I caught them inside the factory or outside the factory working with the police. These people were caught, put in lockup. And if I remember correctly, all of them signed a statement saying, yes, we stole for somebody. Right? That's how serious situation was in Malaysia. Being a country that's producing all the semiconductor in the world, people were focusing on Malaysia to steal all these microprocessors, memory devices, so that they can build their own PC and start flooding the market. So by that time, you already have a lot of Hong Kong companies selling computers, no brand. You just put what brand you want, I'll put the brand. Right? And it's still true today. You go to Lawyat, you tell them, I want to buy PC, they ask you, what do you want? They say, if you ask brand, they say, no, you just tell me what you want. Yeah, I can put any brand that you want, no problem. Okay? So that was the situation then. And I was so busy solving only cases relating to theft of microchips. Okay? Now in AMD, I was further promoted to a facilities director, meaning I have not only security, now I have the whole factory's facilities under me, right? To add to my agony, right? I know now that taking care of facilities is not an easy job, right? Especially in a factory. That means I have to take care of the cafeteria, I have to take care of air conditioning, what have you. The taking care of the cafeteria and the buses alone is enough to kill you, right? Bus too cold, bus too hot, bus always put Indian music, all sort of questions. Bus don't want to stop in front of my house. Cafeteria, not enough food, too little variety, all sort of problems. And during that time, I was again headhunted by Intel. It's quite obvious, right? The only person in Penang or in Malaysia for that matter who has knowledge of theft of semiconductor will be me. Right? So Intel is a much bigger producer compared to AMD. And you know how many people Intel has at that time? 12,000 employees. They have in Penang, 13 buildings in Penang, and 4 big factories in Kulit. And they were looking for a security director. And so they interviewed me. I was quite skeptical, but Intel, being Intel at that time, because they were making so much of money. Right? This is one company that I work with. They have actually announced to people, they are shameful to announce to the public how much of money they make. That's how much of money they make, right? So they promised me that if I move to Intel, they'll double my salary. On top of that, give me another car. So what do? Obviously, that's why I moved to Intel. Again, I remember the first year I was in Intel, I arrested 17 people. It's even worse, right? At that time, any employee that take out one chip, okay, which is as big as this, right? Just one chip, he can sell it in the black market, or we call it the grey market, for 1,000 ringgit at that time, 1996. So who don't want to steal, right? So a few people got caught. So they, went to lock up. But sad to say, I've never put anybody to jail. They went up to the lockup level, and then somehow they were bailed out. Somebody bailed them out, or they have good excuses, and they got scot-free, right? But I have the experience of working with the police, looking at how the police do all these interrogations, which I'm going to share afterwards, which was very interesting to me, right? So that's Intel. Then I was in Intel only for hardly 2 years, and then there's a company. Now I'm moving into another industry, right? Because at that point, digital product has started to come out. Okay. Until 90s, mid of 90s, we were still using analog handphones. Okay. Then the digital handphones started to come out. If I remember correctly, 1995, somewhere in 1995, the first digital handphone came out. Okay, and it was really fantastic. At that time, when you see the function of digital phones, it's really amazing. Can you imagine at that time, digital phone can tell me who called me? Now it's no big deal, right? But in 1996, wow, this guy, I know who called me. So I can choose whether to answer or not to answer. Okay? But that digital phone alone cost 10,000 ringgit at that time. Right? With only about 10% of the features today. But it costs so much money. So, I was tempted to go into this telecommunication market. And again, I was headhunted by a company called Lucent Technologies, who are the equipment producers for telcos. That means this is a company that builds all your network from the towers, connecting it into a switch, and then managing all your calls and all that, right? And of course, their customers would be Maxis, DG, Celcom, U-Mobile, right? So Lucent Technologies at that time was a new company because they had to split from their mother company called AT&T. Maybe a lot of people know what is AT&T, right? American Telegraph Telephone. Because of the law in the US that you cannot monopolize, because AT&T was monopolizing in the whole of US, because telephones are only owned by them. You want to make phone call, you have to use AT&T. So because of that, the government asked them to split. So one company does, you do only the equipment, the other company does the service. Okay, so Lucent Technologies chose to become equipment manufacturer with their famous, what they call the Bell Labs in New Jersey. Okay, so I was excited. When I tendered my resignation in Intel, my boss told me, he did a calculation. He said, Saiful, based on the current perk that you have, in 5 years, you are valued at about 2.5 million. 2.5 million, that's a lot of money. I was thinking, if Intel can give me 2.5 million, hey, this Lucent Technologies is a telephone company, probably can give me more, right? So I said, okay, now you keep your money, I'm going. But more so because I want to move back to KL. So I got this job in Lucent Technologies as a regional security as well as investigations manager for the whole of APAC, Asia Pacific. That's a big job, right? And I love the few years I was there because I was traveling all over the world, right? So the first few weeks they employed me. Okay, fly to US. Okay, learn from US. They talk to you about the company, and I had the first opportunity to look at Bell Labs. Right? Imagine the Bell Labs. They are doing research on handphones. Right? 15 years ago, can you imagine that 15 years ago, Bell Labs already have 11th generation. Today we are what generation? 4th generation. Okay, so the Bell Labs is a very, very high-class, high-end lab for telco. It's still until today. Okay, so they have all sort of products that can go to the market anytime. So I enjoyed my many years in Lucent Technologies, investigating cases all over Asia, but more importantly, this is the first time in my security career they taught me and certified me to become a computer forensics practitioner. Okay, so sometime in 2003, I was taken to Hong Kong for the first time to do a certification on computer forensics. At that time, we only have like 2 companies that offer computer forensics software. One is called FTK and the other one NK. How many of you here are from forensics? Nobody? What a shame. Okay, they have two companies, NKs and FTK. I was certified for both. Right? So it's not easy, right? Because one is the certification, second you need to buy the equipment, and which is very, very expensive at the time. Right? So I was in Malaysia and the headquarters was in Hong Kong. So only those guys in Hong Kong had the equipment. I cannot use the equipment, but I was certified. Okay. 2003 and in 2007, Lucent Technologies lost market and all that, especially the Chinese, and they had to merge. In 2007, they merged with a French company called Alcatel. I'm sure everybody knows Alcatel because of their handphone. Actually, Lucent Technology also have handphone, but it never sold in Malaysia as Lucent Technology. It's sold as Philips. So I went and when they merged, excuse me, when they merged with Alcatel Lucent, I decided to take a package. Okay, because the American and the French, they don't go together. And in the department, I can see that they were fighting, who should take this responsibility on that. So I opted out. In 2007, they merged. In 2008, sometime in March, I took a package and I went out from the industry, thinking that I can open up my own company in security. Let me check on the time. We still have about 20 minutes. So, Lucent Technologies and Alcatel didn't go really well together, and I went out to open up a company, a security company. So I went back into the manufacturing companies. Okay, so I went. Of course, I went back to Penang because these are all the big manufacturers. So I went to Intel. I went to a new company called Plexus, also an American company that does the boards. And Plexus was interested, right? Plexus was interested in my services for only one reason. They had failed the Sarbanes-Oxley, Sarbanes-Oxley Act. They have failed the audit in Sarbanes-Oxley, and their customers are quite upset. It's like you fail ISO audit, right? So in the US company, they have the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. So they failed that audit, so they're looking for a guy who knows how to pass that audit. That's all they want to know. So when I offered them my services, they said, look, I'll do this. I'll match your salary in Lucent Technology. You come and work for us. I cannot take you as a company because our customers, I will have to go and explain to all my customers. There's like 70, 80 customers. So they offered me back a job, and I flew back to Penang. Okay. Of course, at that time, because I don't have a job, I really don't want to go back to Penang because my family are all in KL. So I decided to go go work in Penang and come back during the weekends. Right? So I work in Plexus, and within 4 months, the audit came back, the Assamese Auxiliary audit came back, and we passed with flying colors. Right? We passed with flying colors. And so I told my boss, look, I got enough right now, I got another offer in KL, I want to go back to KL. Right? Of course, that's the time when they tried to ask me to stay and pay me a lot more money, but I guess sometimes when you have family and all that, it's quite difficult. So I had to forego that and came back to KL, and this time I have a job in good old DG. DG is owned by a Norwegian company called Telenor, right? And some politics behind that. At that time, when I was there, they had like almost 60% of the shares, right? And then the Malaysian government said, no, it's a telephone company, you cannot own so much of shares, so they brought it down to 49%. But it's still being run by Telenor. So I was the head of security for DG, but this time I'm not doing investigations. So all my experience on computer forensics stops there. Okay? And again, by the grace of Allah, Alcatel-Lucent, after a couple of years, they were sued by the DOJ of the US for corruption cases that happened in Malaysia, Taiwan, and Costa Rica. Right? And one of the things that they have to show the government, or otherwise somebody is going to go to jail. So they have to show the government that they have hired enough of expertise, investigations people, plus doing what we're doing today, like training people on ethics and all that. So they were looking for the investigator. And I got a call from my former boss in the US. He called me and said, "Hey, you're still available? Do you want to come back?" I said, "Sure, you give me a big package when I go out, you give me another package, I'll come back." So it was a good deal. It was a good deal. They didn't give me a big package, but a small package is okay. But I was also not too happy with DG at the time. Of course, now I'm in Celcom, I can say that. I'm not too happy with them. So I decided that maybe I should do something which I love most, which is doing investigations, especially when I'm already certified as a computer forensics practitioner, and I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing investigation using that. So I went back to Alcatel-Lucent, and this time I have the whole of APAC, and I do nothing else but investigations. And this was the time also they sent me for more trainings. I was sent to Australia, I was sent to Indonesia and Hong Kong, just to refresh because new products have come in. So I was kept up to date on computer forensics, and many cases that I investigated in the years I was with them from 2009 to 2015. Okay. And sometime in 2013, I was promoted to a security director, where I manage some of the investigations. I don't do directly, but I manage some of the computer forensics cases, right? And in 2016, Alcatel-Lucent was sold to Nokia. So by default, I became a Nokia employee. So in 2016, I moved over to Nokia, and Nokia says they want to outsource computer forensics. So they put me there as the security and safety person. I know almost nothing about safety, but no choice, I have to go and learn, right? So I was the regional security safety for Nokia for about a year. And that was about the same time I was looking for a job. And Celcom, at that point, wanted to introduce computer forensics in their investigations of misconduct of their employees, as well as fraud cases that we face in Celcom. And that's where I blend in, and somehow they discovered me, and I went for an interview. It was a long process when you to go into Celcom today. You have to pass a lot of tests in order to get to Celcom, right? So somehow I passed the test, and it took me 3 months, to get to Celcom from the time they interviewed me. So I'm stuck with Celcom now.
Not very encouraging.
Now, as you know, I'm already 62 years old, so I cannot be a permanent employee as per the law. So the companies also take advantage of the law and say, okay, we cannot give you a permanent employee. So they gave me 1 year contract, now another 2 years contract. So I have 2 more years with Celcom.
By the way, if I can clarify, after he got the invite to speak at UCMC, I quickly released his contract. So it's mine. It's mine.
So that's my career history story. Now, I'm going to move into another area which is more interesting. What are things I learned, from day one in security, and maybe share with you all some of the interesting cases that I did all across Asia and even outside of Asia. Now, when I started with the Texas Instruments, their chief of security has a background of SS, or the Secret Service. Okay? In the US, Secret Service, they do only 2 things. They protect the president, the family, and the ex-presidents. Okay? The other one they do is money laundering. It's 2 things they do. Okay? And then, of course, the FBI, the Bureau of Investigation. So my boss was SS. So these SS people, they're very good in policies, procedures. So they taught me a lot about, you must have a cookbook, how do you design your policies and procedures if you want to run an organization, right? So that was my first exposure into making a security. Then they also sent me to convention, security convention, and the most popular one in the US is called the ASIS or ACES, the American Society for Industrial Security. They hold big convention every year, and they go from state to state, right? So I've been to at least 4 or 5 states. I can't remember all, but I know I went to Boston, I went to California, I went to Arizona, Nevada. I went to all these conventions, and this is where I meet with a lot of other security professionals and share knowledge with them. And of course, I also went for a few courses, right, on investigations, also done by the ACES and some of our folks in the US, our company in the US. As I mentioned earlier, my first exposure to computer forensic was in Hong Kong here, and then after that in Australia, and then the US, right? I've spoken enough on computer forensics. By the way, do you all understand what is computer forensics? Okay, I see something only. Okay. In short, I find evidence from your computer or any other computing devices, including your handphone, right? So if there's a case, I go into your computer or into your handphones or your Macs, and we can pick up the evidences that we want from there, or which can be used in court or used as a lead for us to see where it goes from there. Right? Now, not only I'm been trained how to use computer forensics, but they also taught me the physical security part. Today you see cameras all over, right? You hear alarms every now and then. But do you know how much of work that we have to put in to put the cameras and the alarms? It's not simple to do it. Okay, I went for a 1-week course in New Jersey, how to design and install security systems, which was, I thought, very, very, very interesting. Right? In fact, while I was with DG, I was moonlighting, and I was doing installation, of course, with permission. Okay. I was doing installation for a factory in Penang, which still exists today. If you see Honeywell in Penang, well, their security system, I supervised the installation. I did not do the installation, but I supervised the installation. So from scratch, they teach you how to design, where to lay the cables, and then when during construction, how do you manage the CPA, critical path analysis, which one should go first, which one should go last. So all that was, a good knowledge for me. I wouldn't say I'm an expert in that field, but I know how to design and install security system. And ADT is the system, and when my boss asked me what system I should use in my house, I immediately say ADT. So ADT is now in Malaysia. I recommend that they have a good system. Right? But the only thing is, American systems are very expensive. Just to quote you, one camera, a Chinese camera, can cost less than 100. And this guy's minimum is 500. So there's a big difference. Right? So what ADT does is, today they, instead of you buy from them, they just give you a service and you pay them service. And every 5 years or what, they change all the equipment. Okay, then the other area that as a security professional you have to know is what is called the TSCM, which is Technical Surveillance Countermeasures. Now this is interesting because when I was in charge of security, I have to go from countries to countries where the board have meetings, and before they have meeting, normally they have meeting in some clubs or some restaurants or some hotels, and I have to go in advance to do what they call an electronic sweep. So I have this equipment here, okay, which I carry along with me. It's heavy, and then you go to this place and do electronic sweep, right? The good thing about this is, I get to go and sit in all the high class places, sit down and do this with the top guns, okay? But the bad news is, I never caught anything. I've done at least a dozen sweep, but I have not found anything. So I'm not sure whether I was doing it right or there's really no devices out there. Right? Then the other one, which is very interesting, which not many of you have heard of this. Have you heard of polygraph or the lie detector test? Okay, I also have some experience. Again, about 12 people have done a lie detector test on. See, when you don't have computer forensics, and when you do interviewing and interrogating, the guy still cannot break. So what do you do? So in the companies I work with, some American companies, all the staff managers, they have to sign a statement that says that if there's going to be any investigation, they will have to go through the lie detector test. And if they do not want to go, they will have to resign. Okay? But they only attack the top guys. Right? And when you implement we've got 3 people. On the lie detector test, they fail and they go ask to leave. Okay? I don't know whether the company paid or not, but they failed the test. Right? This is an example of the lie detector test. You want to know how the lie detector test works?
Kalau you lie, dia akan
Okay, it's really very simple. They have sensors or probes, they call it. Right? They put one in this finger, one in this finger to check on your perspiring of your fingers. Apparently, if people lie, your sweat will come out. And then they put one more probe to check your temperature. And then they put another sensor here to check on your heartbeat. Okay? Now all this they put into the PC, and there's a software that works with it. Now they'll only ask you questions which have yes and no answer. So to convince you, they will first ask you, is your name Saiful? Then I'll go say yes. Then say, when you are telling me the truth, this is how your graph should look like. Okay? Then they ask you the tricky question. Did you take, you're going to be specific though. In this case, did you take kickbacks from this company A? You're going to be specific. Right? And this guy says no, and the graph goes like this. Okay? So then you know he's not telling the truth. Okay? In real life situation, not 100% are true, but they have claimed that they can do between 90 to 99%. Personally, from my view, I think it's very good. It's very good. It does work. But understand that this one you cannot use in court. Right? So that's why they ask the staff managers to sign. If you fail, you go. Okay? Okay, so that's a polygraph. Now, last, the most important thing, I learned about interrogation and the styles of interrogation. Okay? Of course, I also learned from FBI people, from SS people, but I tell you, nobody beats the Malaysian police. Nobody beats the Malaysian police. Okay, Americans, they believe everything must be under the law, right? So, I give you a typical case. My truck was hijacked in Penang. Okay, my truck was hijacked in Penang and the product was lost. It cost about a couple of million. So what do I do as a security manager? I start tracking all the audit trail. Okay, where did this lot start? Who knows about this one going for shipment? At what time do they know this? And you try to move down and see how many people are involved. So that would take time, right? Maybe 4 or 5 hours, maybe 1 day. Okay? But the police, they go shortcut. Before I can give them my report saying that we suspect this, they arrested the truck driver. And I don't know what else they do to this truck driver. But when I met this truck driver, he was crying and said that he was beaten up. But I never saw. Okay? I never saw that he was beaten up. What I did see is when they put this guy and they were interrogating, I was outside, right? They were interrogating. When they come in, they started kicking chairs, banging the table. You can hear a loud bang on the table. When they interrogate, they always have one table in front of you, right? So they started kicking everything, shouting, and then they have the cold way of doing it. So they have one hard police officer who's shouting and kicking everything, and they have another police officer that goes very nicely. The guy is bad, but I'm trying to help you. You tell me what happened. No, I can help you. Don't worry. So they have this hard and cold. Yeah, I thought that was very effective. And guess what? I did so much of work, and in the end they caught the truck driver who was actually involved. Okay, but you know what broke the truck driver? He went to the truck driver and he told the truck driver, I know you have one wife and 2 kids, correct? Your kid's name is this, and your kids goes to this school. And this guy said, yes. Do you know that your kid just now coming back from school, one truck has knocked her down. She's now in hospital, critical, and she probably will die. So this poor guy sitting there shivering, right? He's just a truck driver. He's not a thief, right? But somehow somebody would have given him some money to ask him to drive and give this thing. So he was so scared, so he spilled everything. So I say the police is the best interrogators. Okay, there's a lot of other stuff which they do, but I cannot share with everybody. SPRM. Okay, I had a 1 week training with SPRM, and one of the interesting things which I learned from them is their way of interrogating. Okay? The way SPRM does is a bit different from the police. SPRM, because they only deal mostly with the government servants, right? So more often than not, they have to interview people like Dato, Tan Sri, Dato Sri. Okay? So they've learned one thing, and they told us that this is how we do interrogation in SPRM. We bring in a Dato, we treat him like a dog. Okay? Won't even give you a chance to sit on the floor, handcuff him, and call him bad names, whatever that you can shout at the person, they do that. This is that way. This person who used to be having high position in the government will somehow break. Right? And that's how they do it. Say, in a matter of time, most of the cases they do that, they break. Okay? One last interesting about interrogation. Again, this came from the police, which I believe is true. The police says, there in Malaysia you have Malay, Chinese, Indian, right? And it says the easiest to break is the Malay. I say, why? He says the Malay, no matter how bad he is, right? You bring in an ustad and sit beside him. Dia kau masuk neraka. Tangan kena potong nanti nak balik neraka. So he says the Malay will somehow melt. Okay? If you talk about religion, the worst Malay will admit. Okay? The Indians, he says, you have to use trick. So the Indians, he said, we bring him, we put into a dark room. For one day, we don't talk to him. This poor guy sits inside. He doesn't know what time of the day. For 24 hours, he sits there. He only gets food under the door. And after the 24 hours, they take him out, they slap him. Okay, so of course, I'm sure they use some shortcut here, right? And then they say, after that, they will admit. Okay? But he says the most difficult is the Chinese. Chinese, especially if they work in pair, in gang, you can never break them. Right? So they found out a way how to break the Chinese. You know what? The Chinese, they are very superstitious. So the minute they arrest a Chinese person, they will put in the gown, right, the orang salah punya gown, and put number 14 there. And then they put into the lockup also number 14. Okay? So when they interrogate this poor guy, say, you are sway lah, you think you pakai pun 14, you duduk pun 14. And they'll tell how sway that person is. And this guy will say, hey, please remove me from all this agony, I'll tell you what you want. So these are some of the tricks that they use. Okay, maybe like a joke, but it does work. Okay. Now, last few minutes, if you have time. These are the countries that I have gone through and do investigations. Somebody was asking me about what do you do in Nigeria? Okay, something this is quite close to us in the telco business, right? In Nigeria, the company I work with have a partner from China, right? And the Chinese government has given Nigerian government some money to do telecommunication network for suburbs, for people who live luar bandar, right? Which is a good thing, right? So our company went and built the network. And when the network was ready, they paid the money, 90% of it. So they hold another 10%. Okay? After 3 years, when the network was ready, the 10% was still not given back. So because of the time and all that, it came to investigation. So we started to investigate what's the problem. And finally, we found out that the 10% was paid. And we found out that before they paid the 10%, we had to give them back 500,000 US. And the reason why we gave them back 500,000 US was because after 3 years, all our towers and the switches, the rumput is higher than the tower. So they say, oh, can I use? You have to go and get a grass cutter to cut everything. And that costs you 500,000, which is ridiculous. Okay? Again, using computer forensics, we're able to see information and communication between these people who are in charge of that project and the Chinese government and the Nigerian government. They were in collusion, and the 500,000 actually went to a money launderer or money changer. So it was clear that some money was. So a lot of people were caught and they left the company. Okay? And at that time, the new government took over Nigeria, and we had no problems with them. Because then the government saying, you paid all these people, now make sure this network is running. And I don't know what happened after that. The other one big case is Laos. Same thing again. Chinese government give loan to Laos government, and the project coordinator was actually paying kickbacks to some of the ministers. Right? Can you imagine, we are a telephone company, a telco, we get contract to build schools. Okay? But their trick is you build schools which is Bistari school kononnya. So you put some computers and all that, some telecommunication, internet and all that. So that's the reason we got the contract for 300 million, 17 schools. When we went to investigate, there was only like 7 schools. But the money have all been paid. Okay. So again, from computer forensic, we are able to see that they have this, what do they call it? When you finish a project, they have a final check or something. Certificate, final certificate, right? So ABC, they call it, final acceptance certificate. So this guy, he sits in the office and he has printed all this. He has all this into his computer. So when people want money, they just get all this. Okay, go and get your money. The project is not even started. Right? So this is how you use computer forensic. You cannot run away. It's so clear, and 4 or 5 people were implicated. Singapore and Brunei. This is interesting. Actually, the case is in Brunei. The company was going to go bankrupt, so we have some of our equipments that we write off. Okay, when we write off, it doesn't appear in the books, right? So this guy who's in charge of Brunei, he comes from Singapore. He went to his friend in Brunei. He says, okay, you take, this is the BTS, the base telecommunication station. The whole thing costs about 1 million. So take this one, put it in the contractor's house, hoping that Celcom Brunei will ask them to install, and he gets the money from there. Okay? So I thought for the first time I caught a Singaporean who is not honest, but he turned out to be a Malaysian. What a shame. He turned out to be a Malaysian working in Singapore. China is a different animal altogether. Right? They say they don't allow corruption and all that, but within them there's still a lot of suspicion on corruption. Right? And in 1 year alone, in the last year I was doing investigation, there's like 12, 13 people was lost their job because of either fraud or kickback. Right? These two are very common in China. India, I can tell you until tomorrow morning. So I think I'll stop there. Many interesting cases in India. Even bolts, screws and bolts and nuts, also they steal. Okay. The Philippines, again, a lot of frauds. Right? One big case in the Philippines is quite a smart guy. This sales guy, he knows that when he buys some equipment for the Philippines, they get a discount from US because Philippines is a third world country, so they get a discount, which is a lot of money. Right? And what he did was he resell it back to the US. Okay, so he do it so smartly that the equipment didn't even fly out of US. It went somewhere else and it went back to US. Okay. Again, we got his laptop. I remember doing this. It was on a Saturday. He left his laptop in the office. We went in there, took his laptop, and did an image and found all the documents there. Right? Indonesia, we may think that Indonesians are crooks, but my biggest case in Indonesia was a Frenchman. This Frenchman, he was taking bribes from the logistics company, right? And guess what we found in his computer? He has an Excel sheet that shows his all the money that he's collected, plus what he expects to get in the next 3 years. Thailand, in grey market, Thailand seems to be the, I don't know, for some reason, Thailand likes all these imitation products and all that, right? So grey market, Thailand is also number one. Right? Malaysia, if you look at us, we have also a rape case. I don't know how that ended up with me, but in a factory, unfortunately, there was one rape case. We investigated the rape case, we found that the guy admitted, but the girl refused to make the report because she's married, she wants to keep it that way, so HR just okay? That's the danger when you have too many ladies in one factory. Okay, any other questions here? Do you want to know anything else about any country here? Uzbekistan actually is not Uzbekistan, is again the Chinese people who came to Uzbekistan to do fraud. Yes.
When you did the investigation in Nigeria, Philippines, do you have any problem with local gangsters?
Yeah, many people ask me that question, no? But really the way we handle investigation is not like the police you slap the devil. It's more like slow and steady, and in the end I always have this excuse. I say, hey, I'm only doing investigation. I'm not going to kick you out of the job. All that is you go and blame the MD or the CEO. Right? So I always take the stand. I only investigate. I don't do anything to you. The people who's going to decide whether you stay or not are the disciplinary committee. So thank God till today I have not had any problems at all. Never had any problems. Right? Any other question? I was given a big amount of bribe when I was working for DG. I was trying to change the security company, and once I closed the tender, one of the incumbent gave me a whole stack of 20,000 ringgit. They're asking me to favor their company, and I made a report to SPRM. I was quite disappointed actually. SPRM took 8 hours to take my statement. 8 hours I sit there in the same building that guy jumped out from in Shala, and few months after that, they gave a release letter to the guy that I claim have given me the bribe. So the guy went back to DG and said, look, this guy said I'm free, there's no charges against me. And they didn't even inform me of the status of the investigation. So I thought that's quite not good. Okay? But that was the closest, even then I don't have any problem with the guy. Any other questions? If no, I thank you for your time. It has been very exciting for me, and I hope I have created that awesome moment.
Oh, okay.
And if you have further questions whatsoever, do give me a call. Okay, you can get through Anek, right? She can give you my number. If you need any clarification or you want to share anything with me, you want to be here, you're always welcome. Okay? So after this,